let's take a look into the inside of the woke administrative state that is running Silicon Valley. Now, you might not know anything about this subject, so we're just going to have a quick refresher on the topic. For example, in 2016, it turned out that a bunch of the Google top execs were really, really upset when Trump was elected. Some of them actually cried in a big meeting. Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google, was like, well, this is pretty bad. Let's face it, most people here are pretty upset and pretty sad for the election. Myself, as an immigrant and refugee, I certainly find this election deeply offensive, and I know you do too. This election is offensive.
You've seen the video of that?
I have.
I only found out of it because of Soph, and now she's deleted from YouTube. But I remember there's that bit where the big fat guy comes up and he's like, "White men in the audience, this is a moment for you to understand your privilege." And I'm just like, Jesus. I always knew Google was bad, but... It's
really bad. And so when in 2017, James Damore released his Google's ideological echo chamber memo, just a few notes where James Damore's like, look, right, maybe there's a biological difference between men and women. And of course, this caused, who was it, Sundar Pichai, I think it was, the CEO of Google at the time, to come back off his holiday in Africa. So he cut his holiday short and returned to manage the internal structure of Google, because there was apparently some chaos and catastrophe just because James Damore had said this. He, of course, was fired. And he was, of course, right. But anyway, so it's not just Google, of course. In 2018, we learned that Facebook has an internal conservative union because of their intolerant monoculture within Facebook. And they claim to have been actively discriminated against because they're conservatives. And of course, Twitter has for years been banning people who misgender and dead name trans people. So that's everything you need to know.
Saying their birth names.
Yes. The names on their birth certificates and passports. You're not allowed to say them, otherwise you get banned. Not just the tweet deleted, not just a restriction, banned.
Does that work if you change your name and you're not transgender?
I have no idea.
What if I just don't like my name and I want to change to something else?
And someone calls you Callum and you go, no, report.
No, I'm Max Powers, damn it.
You should try it. But anyway, so this is, of course, not limited to any mainstream media, a mainstream Silicon Valley platform. In 2020, Susan Wojcicki explained to us why she was going to start trying to engineer the positions that people have on YouTube. She decided she was going to promote authoritative sources, and she just explained this in a podcast. I can't remember the name of the podcast, fans, so I'm afraid, sorry about that.
It was Rabbit Hole, I believe.
That's it, right, the rabbit, yeah. And so she went on this podcast and said, well, after the terrorist attack in Nice, France on Bastille Day in 2016, she decided she was going to start prioritizing authoritative sources. She says, I remember reading about it and just being extremely upset and thinking our users needed to know about it. Woman has feelings. She happens to be in control of the largest media organization in history, broadcasting to literally like 2 billion unique users a month. And she's like, I'm in the grip of an emotion. Our users need to know.
Susan, I don't need to follow all your posts.
No.
Like, this is her. So what you could do, if you're a human, is make a post about the thing that you have feelings about.
Yep.
And then maybe your friends or family will interact with it.
Yep.
And that's where it ends. You don't, then...
Catharsis achieved.
I'm going to send the post to everyone who uses the platform.
Yeah. And of course, this expanded out into the YouTube COVID guidelines, which are actually kind of hilarious when you start reading them in retrospect. Now, I just want to make it clear to YouTube, I'm not commenting on any of this. I'm literally just going to read out your guidelines. They say, don't post content on YouTube if it includes any of the following. Content that recommends use of ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine for treatment of COVID-19. Claims that ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are safe to use in the treatment of COVID-19. Claims that the virus no longer exists or the pandemic is over. Can't claim the pandemic's over. It's forever.
I assume ever?
Yeah. I mean, there's a point at which... No, I can't carry on. Anyway, claims that the COVID-19 vaccine will kill people who receive it, which is why we have to do premium podcasts. Claims that the COVID-19 vaccine will be used as a means of population reduction. Ooh, that's spicy. Claims that masks do not play a role in preventing the contraction or transmission of COVID-19, which is why Rand Paul got censored by YouTube. You go to the next one. After, of course, he got censored, the CDC came out and contradicted YouTube's guidelines, as the New York Times reports. Very interesting. So who are the people running all of this? Who are the people actually, who make up the institutions at each level, going up to the lunatic decisions that are made by their CEOs? Well, we have an insider here, obviously pseudonym, Hazard Harrington, dead name him, who says that he works in big tech in a now deleted thread. He says, I work in big tech, a name you will know and have probably used before. I wanted to give a rundown of what it's like from the inside right now. Obviously, insanely radically left-wing. BLM, LGBTQ, trans flags hanging in the office, pronouns stated before meetings, special affiliation groups for everyone but white men. All what you'd expect. Not in any way shocking, not in any way surprising. But with COVID and work from home, this has totally broken people. They are fundamentally weak, often with no social support outside of work. They're the people with no children and no spouse, only a dog or cat for emotional support. There's constant talk even now about how hard things are for everyone.
Sorry, I just imagine describing yourself as I have an animal and my pronouns to keep me up and running. Like, that's all you got.
I'm a human being. Is that what a human is?
I have an alphabet in which I am a part of.
There's also a dog at home. I have to take him for a walk a couple of times a day.
Okay.
Living my best life. There's constant talk even now about how hard things are for everyone. Often meetings start going around the room to ask, how is everyone feeling? Do we do that here?
No.
John, how are you feeling?
Great, yeah. No, that's not allowed.
Literally everyone else went on sad rants about their lives. I'm so mad a white supremacist shot 3 black men in Kenosha. That was actually a narrative that was going on in left-wing spaces as well.
Yeah, I remember them unironically believing that Carl Rittenhouse only shot black people.
Yes.
So it's 0 black people.
Yeah. And all in self-defense. But he says, it's toxic. When it got to me, I said, good. And then a lady engineer literally proposed that we should not allowed to be answer the question allowed to answer the question positively. So if you say, how are you? I'm all right. Well, that's not. Some people aren't all right. Have you considered that, Mr. Harrington?
This is even funnier being British because we have the custom of like, we hear it, you're right.
Yeah.
And that's like the greeting.
Yes.
And the response is meant to be, yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, not bad. And like the irony is, oh, well, I don't want to hear about your life story. Just making sure that everything's fine, But anyway, he says, I think it hurts her though I wasn't as miserable as her. She made some argument. I think it's true.
You'll have to be happy, damn it.
She made some argument about vulnerability. These people not only want you weak, they want you to expose your vulnerabilities to them so they can exploit them. That's correct. How else can they know how to help you if they don't know how you're weak? They may not intend this explicitly, but whatever twisted ideology they worship ends with that result. So back to morale. Everyone is demoralized. Good. This may surprise you, but since big tech is extremely well paid and have been able to work from home for the past 2 years, they've been given extra days off, extra stipends, extra bonuses and stuff. They've never had to fear being laid off. I have some sympathy, and I can feel some of this myself. It's normal and natural to work with people in person. Work from home can make it easy to overwork. You take fewer breaks, often work past normal working hours. You don't feel connected to customers or celebrate success in person. As I mentioned, big tech is often the only social life for people. Well, if they've only got their cats, what else have they got? I fortunately never made it mine, but my company had all sorts of after-work activities, sports leagues, games, nights, different classes taught by employees. There was a rhythm and connectedness that's gone. The great resignation is real. Many employees are leaving for better jobs. Remote work has so far resulted in more job opportunities for those working in big tech, especially outside of Silicon Valleys. And so we backfill those positions or hire new people all remote. We now have 2 employees who have nearly 2 years of tenure who have never met another employee in person and lives alone in some city away from where the office was. This is why I have got this. It has to be that you work in the office, because I don't want to end up in a position like this, where it's just this dispersed company of people who have no idea who the other people are.
I do wonder what the company. I don't. Of course, he doesn't mention which one, but they're all basically the same on this. Which is, what's their problem with that? What ideologically can they say is, oh, this is bad, we need to get back into the office?
Good question. I mean, you would think it would be something to do with loneliness or depression, isolation, all of these things that were usually in past eras used as punishments for when people had done something wrong, that people are having this inflicted on themselves voluntarily now. Honestly, at some point, we're going to have to go through The Wanderer, which is this old Anglo-Saxon poem of a guy who's living in exile. And it's the most harrowing poem in the world. It's horrible. And even like 1,000 years later, you can feel the guy's pain. And these people are doing it to themselves on purpose. But anyway, This would be fine for a normal person, but then again, we're attracting the familyless urbanites who are scared of even meeting up with their friends at a restaurant. The churn in jobs also has a major effect, constantly dealing with the overhead of reassigning projects from the people leaving and onboarding new people. The new employees don't get enough attention to succeed, and the employees that stay end up with a load of work dumped by the former co-workers, plus the responsibility of onboarding the new ones. There are many software engineers who have not written a single line of code in the past year. Amazing, isn't it? While the woke agitation has slowed due to the productive employees' ability to simply log off, in addition to tiredness, the tiredness of the agitators, there's more and more open rebellion regarding pay and profits. Bring your whole self to work was the big tech mantra. I remember this years ago as well. They were like, oh, this is going to essentially be a big social club. And it's like, yeah, but look at those people. Like, I'm not choosing to hang out with any of them. My social club is the people I choose to hang out with. And look at them, well, look at them. Am I wrong?
Okay. I just am wondering, because we went back to that point in which you mentioned that there we used to be like on camp. That's the thing. It's not on company.
Yeah, it's on campus. But
it's on campus, isn't it?
And I exactly. And I remember Google advertising this. Oh, look, we've got they had slides and table tennis tables and stuff like that where people were just chilling out. It's like, yeah, I don't really want that.
Yeah, it's the kind of weird advertising American universities do as well. They're like, look at the climbing wall we have. I'm like, want to study physics?
Yeah.
Do I need a climbing wall for?
And I'll go somewhere that is a climbing place if I want to go climbing. But anyway, so they say, tell people about your cool hobbies. Share your politics if you're far left only. Share your sex life. Oh, God. Do you really want to hear about the sex lives of radical leftists? I mean,
by the sounds of it, they don't have one, so...
Or worse, they have one that's... Yeah, anyway. This, plus the feeling of distance an online-only presence creates, has made people braver in speaking their thoughts. You used to have the balls to knock on the CEO's office door or schedule a meeting. Now you can fire off a nasty Slack message straight to her. Notice it's her as well. People will openly write threads and comments about Slack throughout Slack, bad-mouthing the higher-ups at the company, and they do nothing. It's unreal what these people will write with no recourse. If it were anything remotely right-wing, I'm certain they'd be immediately fired, but like James Damore, which was remotely right-wing. But so long as they're sufficiently left-wing or minority, anything but a straight white man, they can agitate, complain, do no work, and continue employment. And so the entire company has devolved. And this is where it gets really interesting. We're running on code written in years past. No major new product initiatives are being launched. Workers complain that they're understaffed and demoralized. Isn't that fascinating? The structure, the entire, one of these Silicon Valley giants is essentially being run by people who can't really create the company itself. So if they would start again, they wouldn't be able to write all of this and make all of this. And so it's the people who have now left, the churned employees, whose work they're profiting from.
Their ancestors.
And they themselves have essentially degenerated. But I mean, what would Marx say about this being exploitative? Shouldn't you be paying money to those people whose code you're using in order to finance yourselves? Just curious. Anyway, people take constant 6 days or don't show up at all without record. It's very easy to hide when you're in work from home mode. With such a flux of employees and management and so much allowance for mental health, it's easy to simply no-show without punishment. We hired a new employee and I pinged them at 1 p.m. to see if they'd join a meeting. They came 10 minutes later, said they'd slept in because they didn't have anything to work on. It's got to be mind-boggling for someone not in software. Yeah. It's mad, isn't it? On a given day, managers, of which there are several in a weird matrix structure, will say things like, what can I do to support you? Do you have enough to work on? Too much? It's like emotional support. That would be insufferable. It's like, just go away. Let me get on with whatever I'm doing. Why do I have so many managers? It's like from Office Space. And you can simply say, oh, I've had a hard week, barely slept, felt sick, don't think I can handle much more this week. There's no real accountability to anyone. So you've got record profits at the top because of existing code and product market fit cruising along, so leaders don't notice. It's utterly surreal to watch the deterioration, see how quickly an organization can crumble. And I'm not productive either. I'm constantly bombarded with anti-white, anti-male, woke propaganda. We've even had explicit discussions of assigning work to URMs, which is underrepresented minorities, because, quote, life is really hard for them right now. Not hard for anyone else. It's just because they're brown. This suggestion was from a lesbian white woman with cats. Imagine my shock.
I am absolutely flabbergasted that if nothing's being produced, though, I mean, I'm wondering in my head, no one's making anything. They're all living off profits off old products.
But they're totally right, though, as well. Like, sorry, on.
But it's just the fact that your point about the fact that they're essentially living in a company they couldn't build. They can't even maintain it because you're not producing anything new.
No. I mean, look at the innovations that have come out of Silicon Valley, right? What's Twitter done that's been an innovation in their thing? It's been putting little plates on saying this is contested information, right? Look at YouTube. What have they done? They've removed the dislike bar, and sometimes they'll tweak the algorithm to change what kinds of things come up.
But we've always joked, and for a long time, that essentially these ideological worms of people who just are there for the ideology, not for the company, will eventually take over so much of the company that they'll destroy it, like a parasite.
Yes.
And well, we're actually seeing it in real time.
Yes.
Which, I mean, it's nice to be right, but it's...
And notice that every innovation, quote unquote, that the Silicon Valley platforms put out now is a way of restricting what people could previously do. So they're just removing things, Oh, well, we're going to shadow ban this. We're going to make sure that this is, not present in the search algorithm. It's like that. I've done coding. Anyone could program an exception in an algorithm. If X, then not Y. That's all you need to do. It's the most simple thing. Like there's nothing new and original coming out of Silicon Valley. It's totally calcified with a bunch of Jobsworths who are just like existing in the structure.
They're apparently spending the majority of their time just spending their time on woke ideology.
Who are not producing anything because whoever made the systems was clever and innovative.
And it's also gone.
And is gone, And so nothing new is going to come. It's like, wow, that's a really interesting position, isn't it? And so what was the big YouTube innovation? YouTube Shorts. They ripped off TikTok, and no one cares. I'm not watching a 60-second video. I've got things to do. A waste of my time. That was a girl dancing in front of a camera. Brilliant. What did I learn from that? Nothing. I'd rather go watch an hour-long documentary about something.
I'd agree. There's a lot of content creators that I quite like, and they're trying shorts, and I try and watch them, but I'm more just like, I came here for your videos.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care about
60 seconds of you talking about geography.
Exactly. Anyway, so he says, as productive as one person can be, you can't add value when you're constantly thwarted. No one in IT doing tickets anymore to provision things for you. Large bureaucracy to gatekeep any actions. Needs review by X number of committees, now including diversity, equity, and inclusion committees. It's hard to feel unproductive. I'm not the type who feels great about getting paid to not work, but that's essentially what I've been doing for the last year. Great. I mean, I'd start getting a book or something, start having a read. The problem is worst in big tech. So Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Amazon Prime, and Netflix go down. The world will probably be better off. It's not essential. I worry about this apathy spreading to companies that matter, ones that write software for utilities. It goes on a bit more, but that's the main meat of that, I think. And isn't that a fascinating look at someone who is, I guess we'll say, conservative on the inside of a big tech company who's just like, we're just existing in like it's like some sort of dystopian science fiction where you've got the hive that was built by the great architects in eras past, and then you've got the denizens of the hive who are just weird degenerate gang members who are in there staking out their territory. It's like none of you can support this civilization that you've made, and that's exactly the impression I got from reading this thread, which is why Twitter had to censor it.
I'm trying to think. Wait, what?
Oh well, I have to use an archive because we can go to the next one, John. You can see that he was getting repeated warnings for hate speech. Didn't see any hate speech in that. 2 tweets removed, ruining the entire thread. The account got banned in multiple countries. And so he just deleted it.
What? It's restricted to North Korea only viewers.
Yeah. Basically. France and Germany, I think it was, that weren't allowing that.
Wow, I mean, that's how you know it stings.
Yeah, I know, right?
The midwit morons who can't make any code are sat there just having to censor more things because... Well,
we resemble that. And so that has to go.
I'm trying to think of like some science fiction you could compare it to. To be honest, it sounds like a fascinating Huxley novel or something.
I'm looking at... I think it looks like Warhammer 40,000, actually, where all of this great technology was created, 10,000 years ago, and no one can make anything new like that ever again. All they can do is the incantations to keep the machine spirit running what we already have. Nothing new is innovated. And then you've got the denizens of the hive city running around questioning each other's pronouns and then shooting each other. Like woke hive. Exactly. Woke hive cities. It's but that's what they've made, and it's made people who are unable to create the thing that they live in.
If you want to see more from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to enjoy all of the premium content we have on the site, such as our premium history podcast, Epochs. In this episode, Bo and Carl discuss the legendary Spartan lawgiver Lycurgus. You can get access to all of our premium content with a bronze tier membership for just £5 a month. If you'd like to stay up to date with all of the content we're putting out on the site, you can follow Lotus Eaters on Getter at getter.com. You can also follow our individual writers and presenters, such as Carl here. Thank you and goodbye.